This episode is actually going to be sponsored this week by Scratch and Spin Music, Comics, Games, and Movies. Scratch and Spin is Columbia, South Carolina's go-to multimedia entertainment destination. Records, CDs, tapes, comics, toys, and memorabilia, video games, and more await you. And be sure to visit them on Saturday, October 25th from 10 to 2 p.m. where the Raven, that's me, and other guest creators Ebony Toussaint, Unlovely Frankenstein, and Clay Patterson will be in attendance for Halloween Comic Fest. There will be a comic giveaway, costume contest with prizes, as you can see. Located across the street from the Zestos restaurant on 513 12th Street in Columbia, South Carolina. Welcome, welcome. It's another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Brought Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Brought Raven. It is Friday. That means it's time for Movie Talk with the Review Crew. Yay! And we have Hall House. Chris Hall. Uh-oh, he's already haunted. we can even see the ghost behind him in the
right?
corner.
The Legend of Hall House.
And, of course, we have John Norris.
Hello, everyone. And how cool that we actually have a sponsor this week.
Right?
So there you go. And, they want me to advertise their event. I guess that makes them a sponsor, right?
Right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So there you go. But anyway, today's topics are House on Haunted Hill, both the 59 and 1999 versions. And then we'll talk about some really cool posters by the late, great Drew Struzan, who just passed away this past week after a long battle with Alzheimer's, unfortunately. But we're glad he's not suffering anymore, as far as that goes.
Yes.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and get started with House on Haunted Hill from 1959. I'll let John read it since this is his choice this week.
Yeah. So I'll take the credit or the blame, whichever one you want to send my way. So first of all, the 1959 version of House on Haunted Hill, directed by William Castle, written by Rob White, produced by William Castle and Rob White, associate producer, starring Vincent Price, Carol Omart, Richard Long, Alan Marshall, Carolyn Craig, Elisha Cook Jr., and Julie Mitchum. It was a black and white movie, which was colored in 2005. Production company William Castle Productions, distributed by Allied Artists, release date January 14th, 1959. Running time 1 hour 15 minutes. A budget, an estimated budget of $200 million.
200,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, 200,000. God, sorry about that. $200,000, because William Castle would never ever have made a $200 million movie. And a box office of 2.5 million, so it did make a profit.
Yes. It wouldn't have with a $200 million budget, that's for sure.
No.
Gosh. Oh, my.
What it's about. Millionaire Frederick Lauren, played by Vincent Price, invites 5 people to a party he is throwing for his 4th wife, Annabelle, played by Carol Omart, in an allegedly haunted house he has rented. He promises to give each guest $10,000 with the stipulation that they stay the entire night in the house after the doors are locked at midnight. All the windows are barred, and there are no phones or radios to use. The guests are test pilot Lance Schroeder, newspaper columnist Ruth Bridges, psychiatrist Dr. David Trent, Nora Manning, who works for one of Lauren's companies, and the house's owner, Watson Pritchard. All are strangers to both the Lorens and each other. The Lorens have a tense relationship. Frederick is convinced Annabelle tried to poison him to acquire his wealth, which he denies, attributing his suspicions to paranoia and jealousy. Watson believes that the house is genuinely haunted by the ghosts of those murdered there, including his own brother. He claims to have spent one night there before and, quote, was almost dead when found the next morning. He gives a tour of the house, including a vat of acid in the basement, which a previous resident used to kill his wife.
To which I ask, so why wasn't it removed after the murder? I don't know, George. Because plot hole feet forgot.
When Lance and Nora remain behind to further explore the basement, Lance is locked in an empty room and struck on the head while a ghost confronts Nora. It's like actually one of the best scenes in the movie, I think.
Yes, it is.
Annabelle privately warns Lance that her husband is scheming something and that she suspects him of murdering his second and third wives after his first wife disappeared. The guests learn the party's rules downstairs, and each is given a gun for protection.
To which I ask, what good is a gun against supposed ghosts and apparitions? And gee, would you just hand a loaded gun to a stranger not knowing if they even know how to use it?
Having encountered further apparitions, Nora decides against staying the night, but the caretakers lock the door 5 minutes early, taking that options out of the guests' hands. How convenient. Hearing a scream, Lance and David find Annabelle's corpse suspended to suggest that she hanged herself. However, the absence of a perch immediately arouses suspicions of murder. Nora confronts Lance and tells him that an unseen assailant strangled her and left her for dead. In light of Annabelle's warnings, they both suspect Frederick. Lance tells her to remain out of sight so that her attacker will still think that she is dead. Lance and David propose that everyone stay in their rooms and shoot anyone who enters to survive the night. Thus, the innocents will have no reason to leave their rooms and the killer must stay put or admit guilt.
Oh, this is a lovely plan. Stay in a room where the killer's likely plotted other means to kill you. Was Rob White like 12 years old when he wrote this?
Nora is chased from her room into the basement by Annabelle's ghost. Aroused by the ghostly sounds, David concludes that the killer is about and proposes that he and Frederick split up to search the house. Lance uncovers a secret room at the end of the second-floor hall, but the door shuts behind him once he enters, trapping him. David instead meets with Annabelle, who faked her death using a hanging harness and sedatives. Secretly lovers, the two of them have orchestrated the various mishaps to attempt to manipulate Nora into killing Frederick. Nora, seeing Frederick enter the basement with a gun in his hand, shoots him. After she flees, David slips in to dispose of Frederick's body in the vat of acid, and the lights go out. Again, how convenient. Annabelle walks to the basement to confirm that her husband is dead. A skeleton rises from the acid, accuses her in Frederick's voice, and shoves her into the vat. Frederick emerges from the shadows, holding the puppeteer control unit that he used to manipulate the skeleton and revealing that he had known their plot all along.
So half the people in this film are trying to kill one another and the other half are dum-dums? Is this what we're watching?
It would appear so. After Nora, Watson, and Ruth release Lance from the secret room, Nora admits that she shot Frederick. When they arrive in the cellar, Frederick explains that he loaded her gun with blanks, that his wife and David plotted to kill him, and that they both died in the vat of acid. He says that he is ready for justice to decide if he is innocent or guilty. Watson remains convinced that the house is haunted, with David and Annabelle now added to its ranks of ghosts, and that he will be the next victim. The end?
Wait, seriously? That's the ending? And not a single actual ghost? I am so disappointed. Are you mocking me, Mr. Raven? No, sir. I'm a raven, not a mockingbird. What did I think of this? Well, I am critical of the story, as you can kind of tell. I will say the cinematography, lighting, and the way the story is framed initially with Pritchard, Elijah Cook Jr., warning of the issue of the murders in the house played off next by Lauren's, Vincent Price's invite to the event, plays the mental game with an audience as to what is and what isn't about reality, and it's all done pretty well. It's not so much a horror film, though, as it is a suspense film, which is more up John's alley, at the least. You tend to like more suspense than you do actual horror.
Yeah.
But there are also major plot holes galore, as I pointed out as we were just describing this film. No, I'm not annoyed that Annabelle and David are lovers when they are all, but when you introduce them at the beginning of the film, not knowing each other, that's more of a misdirection than a plot hole. There's other things that are more gaping, shall we say. The effects in the film are quite good for 1959, and when you actually saw it in the theaters back in 59, they had a skeletal ghost drop down and scare the audience at a certain point in the film, which was actually one of the things that inspired Hitchcock to do like the buzzers and other things in other films later. So this actually predated some of that stuff. I think Price is a little too stiff in his performance in this. He's been better in other films, but I feel like Carolyn Craig as Nora really carried the film. Maybe you guys feel differently. I don't know. In terms of the character that you actually cared about. The rest of the characters are either really smarmy or just not particularly likable. And they were just kind of like red herring characters with no depth to them at all, to me. And it plays slightly into the supernatural, but not nearly enough. It would have been awesome if, after Lauren declares he's ready to be judged, the actual murdered parties as ghosts from the past appeared and actually judged him and rendered him dead with the rest of the parties there to bear witness. That would have been cool. And I wish that they had done that, because that would have really shocked the audience at the end and would have messed with their minds enough, you know. But anyway, I'll get you, Mike, for the and your 10,000 too. Gentlemen, what do you think of the film?
I mean, it's pretty much hokum. I mean, and the reason I wanted to watch it was, first of all, to see, I wanted to see what Vincent Price was like in this movie, because I hadn't seen this movie before. I actually saw the remake, and just last night saw this one. But like, I'd heard about William Castle and his gimmicks, like the gimmick where the emergo gimmick where the skeleton comes up out of the theater, and and apparently that was William Castle's thing, was using gimmicks in his films. Like he did a Percepto with the buzzers for the Tingler and stuff like that, and it's like I get the feeling that without the gimmick and without Vincent Price, like, nobody would be talking about this film today.
I agree.
That's probably true. Yeah, but I mean, do you think that the actress who plays Nora does a good job, or do you think she's just there?
I think she did a good job.
Because the rest of
I think
would.
I think she was the only one who acted like there was anything actually at stake.
Right. The rest of them were just like they're like props there, practically.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I didn't mind Vincent Price. He's Vincent Price. Come on, but but yeah. Besides Vincent Price, Nora was my favorite. The character I liked the most. Well, I should say the only character I really liked in the film.
Yeah, the rest of them were pretty unlikable.
It's the best scene in the movie, and it's like the one scare that I really thought they did a good job on was when Nora has the candle and she's beating on the wall, and all of a sudden you see that old hag, and it's like it just comes out of nowhere. It's like, okay, that one was effective.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It's apparent that what people found scary back in the 50s?
59.
Yeah. Is wildly different than what they find scary nowadays. Even the music was kind of hokey. The soundtrack was kind of hokey,
Yeah, it was.
I think with a different soundtrack, I'm curious, I think with a different soundtrack, or even the soundtrack from the remake played over the old film, I think would have added a lot more suspense to it, a lot more terror. Because music plays a huge part.
Now you've got me thinking of what Marilyn Manson's cover of "Sweet Dreams Are Made of This" would have been like over the original film.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take the new soundtrack and I'm gonna put it over that old movie and see what happens. Because people discount, they don't think about how much music drives your emotions during a movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it should be interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It was yeah. Other thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, like you said, I didn't even think this was a thriller. Like there was really no horror, there was no ghosts. It was just all goofy hokum. I didn't care for it. I fell asleep a couple times.
Oh, darn. Okay, well, what did we rate this film? John?
I gave it a 2.
Chris,
I gave it a generous 2.5.
And I agreed with you, a generous 2.5. So we were all pretty much on this, and I think we were all. I know that you were expecting a better film, John. So I don't know, but let's see what the modern version does. I'll let Chris read this one.
All right. This is The House on Haunted Hill, 1999. Directed by William Malone. Screenplay by Dick Beebe. Story by Rob White. Based on the house, very loosely based on The House on Haunted Hill, by 1959 by Rob White. Produced by Robert Zemeckis, Joel Silver, Gilbert Adler, and Terry A. Castle. Starring Jeffrey Rush, Famke Janssen, Taye Diggs, Ali Larter, Bridget Wilson, Peter Gallagher, Chris Kattan. Production company was Dark Castle Entertainment, distributed by Warner Brothers. Release date October 29th, 1999, with a running time of 1 hour and 33 minutes. Budget of $19 million and a box office of $65 million.
Yeah. See now, see what would have happened if this had been the first director's film in today's budgets.
Right? Yeah.
that 19 million would have been like 190,000.
Yep.
Anyway.
All right. What it's about? Well, based on the original 1959 film, it's a quite different Story. In 1931, the patients are at the Vonnegut Psychiatric Institute for the Criminally Insane revolt against the staff, headed by the sadistic Richard B. Vonnegut. A fire erupts, killing the inmates and all but 5 of Vonnegut's staff. In 1999, Evelyn Stockard Price Jansen is in a disintegrating marriage with Stephen Price, Jeffrey Rush, an amusement park mogul known for his elaborate pranks. At Evelyn's insistence, Price stages her birthday party at the abandoned hospital. 5 guests arrive: baseball player Eddie Baker, Taye Diggs, former television personality Melissa Marr Wilson, physician Donald Blackburn Gallagher, Sarah Wolf, a production assistant impersonating her former boss Jennifer, Ellie Larder, and Pritchett, the building's owner, Chris Kattan. The guests are not the ones that Price invited, and neither of the Prices know who they are. Despite this, Price continues the party's advertised theme, offering $1 million to each guest who remains in the house until morning. Those who flee or perish forfeit their $1 million to the others. The building's security system is tripped, locking everyone inside, a stunt which Price and Evelyn blame on each other. Jennifer, Eddie, and Pritchett search the labyrinthian basement for a control panel. Jennifer becomes separated from Eddie and is nearly pulled into a tank of blood by a doppelganger impersonating him, but the real Eddie arrives in time to save her. Melissa disappears, leaving behind a trail of blood and a video camera showing her apparent murder. Price visits his assistant, Schechter, who is overseeing the party stunts, but finds him horribly mutilated. On a surveillance monitor, he sees an apparition of Dr. Vonnegut. Armed with a bloody saw, Evelyn seemingly dies in front of the others, strapped to an electroshock therapy table. Price pulls a gun on the guests, demanding to know who killed his wife, before they turn on him and lock him inside the saturation chamber, an archaic zoetrope device that Vonnegut used to treat schizophrenics. Blackburn volunteers to guard Price. When the others leave, he turns the chamber on, leaving Price to be tortured by the moving images. In Vonnegut's office, Sarah and Eddie find a portrait of the hospital staff and realize that the Prices and the invited party guests, with the exception of Blackburn, are descendants of the 5 survivors of the 1931 fire. Sarah surmises that the spirits hacked Price's computer and altered the guest list. Blackburn and Evelyn are revealed to be lovers who faked Evelyn's death, plotting to frame Price and hoping one of the guests will kill him in self-defense. Fearing the guests are not yet motivated to turn on Price, Evelyn kills Blackburn, then releases a delirious Price from the saturation chamber. Sarah, Eddie, and Pritchett discover that Evelyn's body is missing and return to the chamber, where they find Blackburn's decapitated corpse. Sarah finds Price covered in blood and shoots him. Eddie and Pritchett arrive and bring Sarah upstairs, after which Evelyn approaches Price to gloat. Price, protected by a bulletproof vest and posing as dead, attacks Evelyn, telling her that he had long known about her and Blackburn's affair. Having bugged her house with cameras as they scuffle, Evelyn is thrown through a decaying floor, unleashing an evil amorphous entity composed of the spirits of the house. The shape-shifting entity consumes Evelyn, killing her and adding her spirit to its mass. Price then discovers Melissa's dismembered body. The entity pursues Price up the staircase before engulfing Pritchett. Price has a sudden realization that the attic might house the mechanisms used to operate the lockdown system and flees there. Followed by Sarah and Eddie, Price opens an iron window guard in the attic, then sacrifices himself to give the others time to flee. Sarah narrowly escapes, but the entity traps Eddie inside. As the entity menaces Eddie, he reveals he was adopted and, like Sarah, not a descendant of the original staff. Pritchett's ghost opens the window guard, allowing Eddie to escape. Sealed on the ledge, Eddie and Sarah find an envelope containing all 5 checks made out to cash and signed by Price. They're relieved to have escaped and won the money, but are stuck on the roof of the building and don't know how to get down.
And that's
in a black and white,
and that's how they end the film.
Yeah, in a black and white post-credit scene, the spirits of 1931 patients are seen torturing the Prices, presumably doomed to eternal damnation in the afterlife.
Let's start with John and then go to Chris, and I'll wrap it up.
Well, like the original I thought it was hokum. It didn't make any more sense to me than the original did. And, even though obviously there was more, and it was no more scary to me than the original was either. Because,
well, is that because you already know what's going to happen pretty much, or?
Yeah, well, kind of. And it's like, I don't know. It's like CG, to the extent that they used it in this film, like CG just doesn't really scare me.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand, I thought this film was brilliant. Love the movie, love the cast. I loved all the little nods to the original.
Yeah.
The host's name was Price. And just like William Castle, he made his living, partially with gadgets and stuff that scared people.
Mm-hmm.
Or Castle, yeah, just like William Castle, yeah.
Right.
So there was a little nod there. They nailed that opening scene with all of the hearses coming down the dark road, which was an ode obviously to the original. There was just a lot of little nods to the original that they did better in this movie. And I think, if I remember correctly, when I first saw this, I thought this was one of the truly scary movies I had ever seen.
Interesting.
So I thoroughly enjoyed this. And of course, the soundtrack leagues better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of in between you both. I agree that the soundtrack is better. I agree it has a supernatural element that the first film should have had.
Right.
But it's at the end, you're kind of like, oh, I'm not really part of the thing. I'm adopted. Oh, that's just like,
I thought that was hilarious. He's like, I'm adopted. Come on. He's like, I'm not even supposed to be a part of this.
Yeah. And it's like, it was just kind of a weird, I don't know, but it was okay, but I was just, it kind of left a little bit of cheese there too. But
I thought it was hilarious.
And well, I would have been happy with just one survivor, though. But well, we can't have the female and then have the black guy die. We got to have one or the other. Well, no, we'll keep them both. we'll be nice and split the difference.
Right.
Wait, how do we get off the roof? Yeah, should have had somebody get pushed off the roof, split down the middle. That's how they should have ended it. But anyway, I also felt like with Price sacrificing himself, realizing that there are actual ghosts here that are going to harm people. He does a self-sacrifice to protect the other innocents. Why does he have to be internally damned? Shouldn't he be forgiven?
I think it's just the house that trapped him there. It's the house.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting, but
it wasn't any sort of like moral, like eternal damnation from God. It was the house trapping him there, and Vonnegut, doing what Vonnegut does.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. So, all right. Anyway, I give it. You give it a 4. John gives it a 2, and I give it a 3. So we're all pretty much of the equalized 3, I guess. On that.
And actually, Return to House on Haunted Hill isn't a bad movie. It goes a lot more in depth. into like the evil in the house, which turns out to be Baphomet. And it just, it goes a lot more in depth into that. So it's not a bad movie.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We have some sad news this week as the phenomenal artist Drew Struzan passed away at the age of 78 from Alzheimer's disease. It had already been announced back in 2025 by his wife Dylan that he'd already reached a point where he was fighting for his life and could no longer paint or sign things for the fans. And he was being kept out of tabloid circulation and such afterwards, basically, because it was apparently that bad. We are, of course, sad that he is gone, but glad that his ordeal with the disease is concluded, for we lost the Drew whose work we all loved and respected years ago. That having been said, there's an incredible amount of art legacy he has left us with, and we're going to try and give a small sampling of that tonight as we pick some of our favorite images. Let's begin with John.
Okay, so this is Soar, Princess of the Sky. So back in I'll tell a little story. So it's 2005, 2006, and I go to see a movie at our local AMC theater, so AMC theaters ran this fake movie trailer, Soar, Princess of the Sky, but the thing is, it comes on and you don't know that it's a fake trailer. Like, the animation looks so good that, like, literally within 2 seconds of that trailer starting, I was hooked. It's like, oh my gosh, whatever this movie is, I have to see this movie. I mean, they went, but of course it turned out to be a PSA to remind people to silence their phones and stop texting before the movie starts. But I mean, when I say they didn't phone it in, I mean, this was full on Disney quality, traditional cell animation, scored with a 105-piece orchestra, and it had character designs by a legendary animator, Mark Hen, who, of Ariel, Belle, Simba, and Tiana. So, I mean, they really went all out. And, like, I was just completely heartbroken when I realized that this wasn't actually going to be a movie. So, and then there's the official posters, just the fact that they got Drew Struzan to do real artwork for a fake movie trailer is just awesome to me. And of course, he did it with the same quality that he always did. And this was painted by Drew like it was the next big animated blockbuster. The film wasn't real, but the experience was, and that artwork is pure Struzan. And again, I saw this in an AMC theater. I was completely blown away, and I still wish that they had actually made a feature-length film out of this concept. And you can watch the trailer on YouTube. It's called Soar, Princess of the Sky, and it's amazing.
And the fact that they probably paid Drew Struzan $100,000 to paint this for a PSA is just crazy.
No, people might not know what a PSA is. That's a public service announcement. I just didn't want to spell it out for sake of space on the screen. Like you say, you see the trailer and you're like, wait, what the hell? Where's the movie?
Exactly.
It's like, geez, oh, Pete, how could you not make a movie out of that concept? Almost like did Jeffrey Katzenberg like have a brain fart or something? You know? I don't know, but or whoever was in charge of Disney at the time. But anyway, it was bad. They should have done this, but
yeah.
Oh, our next one.
Okay, so if you know me, you know Balto is one of my favorite films of all time. You know, you've probably seen I have the original poster behind me.
There it is. Look behind
There
you.
it is. Yeah, it is one of my all-time favorite movies. So I discovered this unpublished poster a few years ago, and I only recently found the black and white version. And it's interesting to compare the differences between the two, like to see the pencils he started with and then compare it to the completed work. But I just love this image.
I like the pencils better than the airbrushed work. Myself.
I do too. The pencils are just really striking with the with the white, the little flecks of white, the light, and everything. It's just really striking.
Yeah, and people don't realize because they're so used to seeing Drew Struzan as the likeness guy. You know, the painterly likenesses of the actors. That's what most people think of when they think of Drew Struzan. And then you see this, and you see, holy crap, this guy was like really talented beyond, because so many people are just like one style artists. And they can't jump from one thing to another. And Drew was one of those guys that could really do just about any kind of art style you needed him to do. So I think this is a great representation of that.
But yet still uniquely him.
Definitely.
Yep. Yes, I agree with everything.
I do kind of wish he'd left the girl's head in the painted version, but for whatever reasons they decided to take it out. But I mean, there's a lot of other elements. I mean, they took other things and changed it a little bit too, so it's okay. You know, like I said, the face is more happy looking for Balto, the lead there. Where he's a little more, I don't know, a little more. I won't say. I don't know what would we say with the expression of the one on the pencils looks like. He's not angry, but more like bad.
Devilish.
Okay, yeah. Whereas Balto on the right, he's like this really happy-go-lucky dog type of facial expression. So I don't know. It's interesting though. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Okay, so.
Again, this was.
Yes. So An American Tail was really a formative movie for me. Like it really was a movie that helped shape my love of movies. For one thing, this is where my love of film score started with this movie. This James Horner's score. It was the first time I really paid attention to the music score, and this movie was also the first time I really started paying attention to credits and like connecting the dots with what people had done before, like Don Bluth is like, oh, and he's the guy who directed The Secret of Nim, Christopher Plummer does one of the voices in the movie, and it's like, oh yeah, he's the guy who was Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. So this movie was really where I started to connect the dots, and And also, this poster is probably the first piece of movie promotional artwork that really seared itself into my brain. And part of the reason why, if you can go to the camera for a second.
Mm-hmm. What do we do?
Just go back to the camera. Yeah.
This?
So yes. So part of the reason that image was burned into my mind is because they used it as the cover for the soundtrack album, which is one of the first soundtracks I ever had. They also used it as the cover for the sheet music to Somewhere Out There, which is the first piece of pop sheet music I ever had. So I mean, like I saw this image all the time. And as far as and I should say, I have the poster right here. So, and as far as Drew Struzan is concerned, we just talked about him, being the likeness guy and being the cartoony guy, and I think this image really captures both sides of him. Because on the one hand, it's you have the shoes look very realistic, and and then you have the painterly style of the Statue of Liberty and the boats in the background, and then you have the cartoony style of Fievel. So to me, this image captures a lot of sides of Drew Struzan.
Yes.
Right. And speaking of being the likeness guy, I mean, I totally recognize that boot. Like, it's dead on.
Mm-hmm.
That lady's boot, like, I totally recognize that. He did such a good job in the likeness on that boot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on both of them. And if you know shoes, you know who it is.
Oh, you totally missed that joke.
No, I didn't. You thought you were being a smartass, but you didn't. Here's actual footwear he used for that. And if you know your footwear, yes, recognize it. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. That was my joke. And for those of you who didn't know, Don Bluth is also the guy of Dragon's Lair fame and Space Ace.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're a video game aficionado.
Yes. So yeah. But no. If you look really closely at the boats, you can tell which boats they're actually used for reference to. That's how tight that painting is. But unfortunately, we can't get that zoomed in close. Even if John were to actually try and use his posters from the phone, it wouldn't work.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. So those are three of John's favorites. Let's move on to some other ones. One of mine is Adventures of Babysitting from '87. Just an amazing layout of the four characters doing the Adam West, Burt Ward, Batman rope climb up the wall of the building. The facial expressions on the kids are absolutely awesome. Let's see if I can get this thing to blow up a little bit. Can you guys see some of the expressions on the faces now?
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, at the same time, I'm going to have to pull it back again. He made Elizabeth Shue look sexy and confident with her facial expression, but she still has a sense of teenage innocence in her own right. And the cityscape background has a really nice layout design. The left corner building with the diamond silicate rooftop draws your eye right over to the beginning of the credits in the bottom left corner so that you'll actually read them. And the overall left side balances out the image overall quite well in both depth perception, and it gives your figures something to be grounded amongst and gives a sense of excitement and danger, because what in the world could they possibly be climbing up the side of a building that high for?
Right?
What are they doing?
Can you imagine Struzan like doing comics? Like that would have been incredible.
Oh god, yeah, but he would have been like the most expensive comic pages ever.
Totally worth it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, just doing covers would have been amazing,
right?
You know. But yeah, I just love this, and of course, it just made you want to go see this film, because you're like, what in the world is this little girl with a Thor helmet on her head? You know?
And that was the magic of Drew Struzan. He made you want to go see that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever poster he did, you saw that poster, you're like, damn, I have to go see that movie now.
Yep.
And in some cases, his posters were much better than the movies they were advertising.
Exactly.
Not in this case, though. I think this film...
Not in this case.
Oh, this is a superb film. Yes.
Yeah, but yeah. Okay. My next pick is the classic Star Wars D poster from 1977. Now, this was not just Drew Struzan. There was another person, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, that was involved in this one. This was made to look like both a circus poster and a tear sheet, because somebody at 20th Century Box, as in they botched, forgot to set it up that so that there'd be enough space for the full credit typeset at the bottom. They didn't have Photoshop back then, kids, and the piece had already been printed when they realized the goof, so they had to make a new print with it, looking like it's a torn poster off the wall, with an additional image of Ben Kenobi on the side, like it's on an actual wooden wall, posted up like a circus poster, and put the actual credits below, where they had the George Lucas and other people's credits on music by John Williams and stuff below that. And originally, the poster was just what's inside the red line, the red edge border. That was the original poster, and it didn't have the credits of the actors' names in it at the time, because originally he thought that the Lucas and Gary Kurtz and John Williams was going to be put there, and it wasn't supposed to be there. They didn't have enough space to add everything. That's why they did it this way. And of course, this is early Struzan. He hadn't quite mastered the likenesses that he does in later works. And it sort of lacks the cohesion of layouts designed that his later works possess, but it has a very strong design flair that clearly influenced many other artists in the film and in the comics industry, because Star Wars was so influential overall on all the levels of the art as well. Gentlemen, thoughts?
I like it. I think it's really cool. I love the fact that even the mess up, they used it and just kind of went with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you could, like you said, you can tell that that's not Struzan at his strongest.
Mm-hmm. But it's like it's some of his earliest work in actual poster work in that time. I think he'd only been doing posters maybe 2-3 years at that point. By the time we saw some of these other films where he was in the 80s, he was already a seasoned veteran by then.
Yes.
John, your thoughts?
I agree. I like it. Of course, he would get better, but I just think it was cool that he fought on his feet on how to fix the issue, and it turned out great.
Yeah. Okay. Next one is we're gonna spare us the damage of who the owner of the property is. We're gonna put aside Rawlings nonsense. We're looking at Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone from 2001. This doesn't have the text underneath in the centerpiece for the credits, but I wanted to take that out because I just wanted to show the image itself. The layout and structure for this is exquisite. Not only are all the actors expertly rendered, but the owl is just amazing. I can't even draw it close enough. I can try, but it's not gonna. It's probably too blurry, right?
No, it looks good.
It's a little blurry, but it's not bad.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it doesn't. This picture really doesn't show the quality of the feather paint. And if I had time, I would go get the actual poster because I do have this poster. But it's hidden in another room right now. They gave these away in small 11 by 17s when the film came out, and I got one for free. And it's just, you can see all the feathering in the paint on the actual poster, and it's just, the way he does the shadow effects, the lighting, and notice how the flames are two different levels on each side.
Yep.
And yet, how does that reflect the lighting? Okay, you see lighting up Rupert Grint's face over here, and then the banking goblin, it's not lit up. Well, it's interesting because what he's doing is he's juxtaposing the light from the right-hand side to light up the left side of the goblin's face, but juxtaposing the larger light to light up oh shoot, I can't think of his name. Robbie Coltrane's character.
Hagrid.
Thank you. Hagrid's face. It's all quite interesting how he does that and does juxtapositions on that, using the light sources to reflect different light levels. And the way he does the glasses, it's if you look really close in the eyes and the way the glasses, the flames actually do show up in the eyes. So it's like they just really did a brilliant job on that.
Yeah, it's superb. And of course, this is, Struzan was well known for his use of warm and cools together.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is just a superb example of that.
Yep. And this was the final. There were 3 other versions of this poster. And unfortunately, I couldn't find the other versions online, but I know for a fact that there were 3 other versions he did. And we're going to show another example of that with another poster shortly, because he would do different samples and he would actually do full renderings for the films and let the director and the producers and executives pick which one they wanted and Frankenstein them together.
Yeah, that's just crazy to me that he was doing that. That's just.
But we're gonna show you that in just a minute. What do you think of this one, John?
I think it's beautiful, and everything you said. It's just his attention to detail was outstanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reason I took the text out on this is because if you put the text in, the text distracts you a little bit from what's going on with the lighting sources, and so that's why I removed the text on this particular piece. Okay, this is the Goonies, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. It had to be on the list because while you see the final image, he did 7 versions of this poster, with each one a different group of where the characters were hanging from the stalactite.
That's cool.
And as you can see, it's fully rendered examples to figure out what's what. Okay? And there is a background painting behind them that's painted separately. This would be like an overlay for the centerpiece where the figures are hanging, and then the stalactites another layer in there as well.
Yeah, this was like, Photoshop before there was Photoshop, kids.
Yeah. And then here's the other 6, or the other 3. So there was 6 versions plus the one that they actually used.
That's cool.
And when you just think that he did that on his own to say, well, which one do you want? Which one do you think is the best? For Spielberg and the studio execs to pick from, and any of these would have worked. Any one of these would have been fine as the final film, I think.
Absolutely.
And it just is iconic. So it just blows my mind that he did that, that way.
Yeah, that he just casually like, oh, here's 7 different versions.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just insane. Just talk about badass. I mean, don't get me wrong. We do cover art pieces. A lot of us do breakdowns and do, an idea, but we don't do that.
Right? Yeah.
Good God, wow. I mean,
that would be like charging full cover price for each version.
Well, we got paid for it. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's just like,
yeah, it's still,
damn.
Yeah, it's insane.
Okay. There you go, Chris. Here's one of your picks.
All right, I love this movie, but I love this poster even more. Lots of cool elements to it. It's quite cool how well Struzan can draw the graphic on top of the tank top so that it's stretched, but it looks natural. A lot of people can't draw graphics on graphics like this, and it looks flat or misshapen. The color palette is, of course, gorgeous. He plays up the reds and oranges with the cools in the background, while the female in the foreground is, the blue tones. And what I really, a little mini scene of Jackie and Gracie's headshots in the water in the bottom of the left. What I really love, though, is if you can't really tell from this, I don't know when Drew started doing this, but if you can you zoom in at all on that?
Yeah. What you looking for?
On Kurt Russell. So you can't even really tell. He started putting like line work in his paintings. Like he would have hash marks in his paintings.
Yes. Well, okay. What Chris is talking about is this is a little bit bleached out for this image, but he does the painting and then he does colored pencil overtones to create shadow effect.
Yes.
And this one has it, but it's not as fully rendered as some of his pieces are. This is like a little bit earlier. It's more in the hair than in his face, I think, on this one.
Right.
But
this is one of the first ones that I can remember having that, and it just that stuff just blew my mind. I'm like, I never would have thought to do that.
It's actually there more in Kim Cattrall. It's there on her knees, on the shading of the knees, and in the shading of the blouse more than in Kurt Russell's face and hair. It's also there in the blue jeans.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you can also tell with the way he did the orange tones here. There's almost like a scribble effect across.
Yeah. Yep.
But that is what we call a it's a watercolor effect over watercolor crayon or watercolored pencil is what that is. And what Drew does, or I think he does. I shouldn't say he did do that because I don't really know his techniques. But it looks like to me he would do like a light layer, wash, layer it again, wash. And when he wanted to have the edges, he would just do another overlay of the pencils over to get that effect.
Right.
Whereas when you go to here, like the water scene, it's all acrylic and oil comparatively.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why you see a little more faded out elements here in the upper levels, is because there's more color penciled effects over in watercolor rather than whereas the box scene where the credits are is more of a mixture of acrylic and oil.
Right. And on a lot of his other later posters and stuff, it's really prominent. You can really see it.
Yeah. Okay. And then
this one, you could really see it. Especially, or like Indiana Jones. So
the Indiana Jones films are almost entirely colored pencils with watercolor over it.
Yeah.
So,
so I love this poster because we talked about this earlier. This is the movie I wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I saw this poster, I'm like, this looks badass. And that's what Drew did. He made posters, and you said you were like, oh my God, I gotta see this movie. And then of course you saw the movie, and it was like, that wasn't the movie that wasn't the movie that the posters represented. Where the hell is that movie?
I was wondering how you picked this film, but it's like, or picked this poster. I mean, don't get me wrong, this poster is very good, but I don't think it's necessarily one of his strongest. I mean, I get it. 87, you're 14. The cartoon and the toys it was starting to wane a little bit, but it had been very popular the previous 2-3 years. People have been wanting to see a live action version of this ever since the toys came out.
Right.
So people were really looking forward to this.
Yes.
There's a quality in what he does for the figure for Dolph as He-Man. I like how he did the Starfield for Skeletor, because Skeletor looks like crap in the movie.
Yes, he does. Exactly. In this one, he looks badass.
Yes. But he even hides the weakness of the staff design in this. He knew how to make things look much better in that. In other ways, he also took this his floating skycraft. It looks more like something out of Star Wars.
It does, absolutely. Yeah.
It looks almost like one of Jabba's surf skiffs.
Yeah, yeah. Like. Drew knew how to make things look epic.
Yeah, and we're gonna and yet he still made these Beastman, and I'm not sure which one's which on these characters now, but he did a nice job of trying to make everything look like you wanted to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
And now I didn't particularly care for that. I didn't want to see this movie personally, mostly because I was not a He-Man fan. I always thought the cartoon was dorky. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was so excited for this movie, and when I finally saw it, I was like I said, I was like, wait a second, what? This isn't the movie that I saw there. This isn't the movie that was on the poster.
Yeah. Oh man, and it's really a shame because Lundgren. I mean, Dolph Lundgren is not the world's best actor to begin with, but he did fit the part.
He did, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was like, and Langella didn't do a bad job as Skeletor, given what
he was actually pretty lauded as his job for Skeletor.
Yeah, he is. So it's like, it's an underrated film in that sense, but it's still something you want to MST3K as you watch it.
Well, because it's the dorky elements. It's whatever his face was, the little troll guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's those dorky elements, and the fact that they spent way too much time on Earth. Like nobody wants He-Man on Earth. They want He-Man on Eternia. Yeah, exactly. Fighting Skeletor in front of Castle Grayskull.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons why the film didn't do so good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next film.
The color scheme, I'm a sucker for purple, right? And the color scheme in this is just breathtaking. The way that the Emperor's face lights up and is that greenish yellow against the purples, the star fields, the explosions, it's just everything is just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's barely any reference to the Rebel Alliance at all. Just that snow speeder that could have just as easily have been an Imperial vehicle. We didn't know that until we saw the film.
Exactly.
The reveal of the Emperor in the poster, we hadn't seen anything of him in the film, remember? So, this was like, oh, who's that? What is that? And then the elements of the previous film of the TIE fighters coming at you, right? In the stay and attack formation,
right, yeah.
And from the trench run, with Vader's ship in the center, and then the lighting effects on Vader's helmet was quite interesting because it clearly is parlaying the Death Star's lighting sensibilities off that image.
Yes,
and you're like, okay, we know the Death Star was destroyed. What happens next? Is there more? Yeah, and of course we would find out later that there was a second Death Star, but that was kind of hinting at that. It just wasn't brought in until the third film.
Right. And it's hard to tell, but that Emperor, is that Ian or is that the female that played the Emperor? I can't tell. With the baboon eyes or with the chimpanzee eyes.
I have no idea.
I think that's Ian. That looks like Ian.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Ian
McDermott.
Huh? McDermott?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because maybe there's some people that don't know that it was not the first image of the Emperor was not Ian McDermott. It was somebody's sister or something like that, right? Dressed up in the makeup, and the eyes were actually like baboon eyes or something like that.
Okay.
I did not know that.
Oh, I thought everybody knew that.
Nope. That's the first time I'm hearing about it. But that's okay. All right. And lastly, we're going to talk about a classic poster from Struzan and some earlier work before he really got into this mastery of likenesses and had to work in a more interpretive manner of the film. This is Squirm from 1976. And it's clearly not as refined as some of the posters we've discussed this evening, but it did invoke enough of a response from me that we're going to watch and review this as our Friday movie next week.
Okay, one second. So yeah, the original image of Palpatine from Empire Strikes Back was physically portrayed by actress Marjorie Eaton and voiced by actor Clive Revell. Eaton wore heavy makeup and prosthetics, and chimpanzee eyes were superimposed onto her face to create the final look.
Okay.
Ow.
All right.
So there's that.
All right. Cool. Is that a Wikipedia source or?
Yeah, it's all over the internet. You can find that.
Okay. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just hadn't heard that one before. That's all.
I heard it first on a documentary. So
okay, but again, this is what we're going to watch next week is Squirm. You can find it on Tubi. It will not be this poster, though. It'll be a guy up to his neck in worms.
Yes. Drew did not do very many horror posters.
Yes, and this is one of his earlier works. And again, this is definitely more of one of his interpretive pieces. That looks very interesting as you're seeing skulls and you're seeing the full skeletons and bodies decaying underneath the ground and stuff. It's just a really interesting image. And how will that parlay into the film? We'll have to wait until next week to find out. But that will be our film next week. So thank you to Scratch and Spin for the sponsorship this week. We'll talk a little bit more about the event next week as we're getting ready for it. It's going to be a week from Saturday. And
I think there needs to be a shout out as well to the movie The Mist, where a very Struzan ish movie poster painter was, the lead of the film.
Okay.
You've seen The Mist, right?
I have not.
I've seen it, but you're going to have to tell us.
Huh?
You're going to have to tell us.
Okay. So that the lead in the film, played by, hold on. Played by Thomas Jane.
Okay.
Is a movie poster painter. And it shows him working on a movie poster in the movie. And that poster was painted by Drew Struzan.
Oh, okay.
And
something else. All right.
Well, and speaking of that, so for those who don't know, there is an excellent documentary on Drew Struzan called "Drew, the Man Behind the Poster," and Thomas Jane. He and Thomas Jane actually talk about that, and how like Thomas, thought he was taking Drew's suggestions well, only to have Drew tell him he did a terrible job.
Yeah, in the background, going, no, you screwed that up. Yeah, that was fantastic. I saw that one.
Okay, all right.
Get with the times, Lewis.
All right. Well, anyway, I know John has something else he wants to share, so go ahead.
Yes. Another Drew Struzan poster I have. This is DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. And, of course, Drew did the Indiana Jones. And I love the Indiana Jones-ness of this image. I hopefully y'all can see it. But
we can see
it's fantastic.
Yeah, but it's cool, and I happen to have it, so I thought I'd show it.
DuckTales, woo!
As you can see, he is like a huge movie poster buff.
Yeah, I spent money I didn't have in college, which is when I bought most of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is fine, because that's where we do stupid shit, is in college.
Yes.
That's what college is for.
Alrighty, so that's our last image of the night, is that DuckTales poster. And again, thanks to Scratch and Spin for the sponsorship. And if you want to reach out to me on social media, Facebook at Lewis.Brightraven, Twitter X, Muskrat channel at LewisBrightRave2, DeviantArt.com is where you can see some more of my artwork. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven exclusively on YouTube. Yeah, if you have questions, suggestions, maybe you want to tell us what your favorite Drew Struzan posters are, because I'm sure we didn't mention something that's somebody's favorite. There's so many to pick from. Quoth the Raven LBR72 at gmail.com is the place to reach out. And if I get back to you, try LewisBrightRaven at yahoo.com. And this Saturday, what do you got for us at Glass House Rolling Stones, if anything, Chris?
Again, no guest planned as of yet.
Okay. What happened to last week's guest that didn't happen because he had to leave town?
I'm not sure. David and I will talk about that tonight.
Okay.
I apologize. Yeah, there's no info right now. So
Yeah. He's always got you going like the last second and leaving me in the lurch too. Yeah. Oh well. All right. So I try to help promote your show.
I know, and I appreciate that.
Anyway, if you want to nag Chris, it's at ghthrowingstones@gmail.com. And if you want to see if you can get those posters out of John's hands, it's great. Figure out hotmail.com.
You can pry them from my dead cold hands.
All right. That's all for this episode. We thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Quoth the Raven, nevermore.